I make sure that I spread out all my stuff on the table to take up as much room as possible so that they know that I'm in control.
Welcome back to the Full Out Real Estate Agent. Today we're speaking with Steve Hill. So Steve, him and his partner, they do over 100 transactions a year. Their average sale price is in the 1.5 to 2 million sales range, and they work out of the Fraser Valley, BC area. So one of his skill sets that he has is matching and mirroring other proven models. So we're going to be talking a little bit about that. And his partner was actually on our show in the past, Denny Evans, and he was the marketing guru. And if you haven't checked that out, make sure you definitely do that. But Steve has his own background. He was in the mortgage business before. We're struggling a little bit in that business, and then jumped into real estate, and then it just blew off the top here with him and Danny. So, Steve, really looking forward to the conversation with you.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. Really excited to be here. Thanks for having me on.
So, Steve, take us back and share a little bit about the background on, you got into mortgage and then you flipped over to real estate. Can you share a little bit about your backstory?
Yeah, it actually, I'd like to even start even before that. Like I've always been a hard worker, and I never really believed in the traditional, go to university, get a degree, start your career path that way. So I've never been unemployed my entire ever since I was kind of 14 or 15 years old. I used to ride my bike, my first job, ride my bike to McDonald's and work a night shift, then go to high school the next morning. So I've always been extremely proud of my work ethic. And from McDonald's, I kind of morphed into working in the bar scene in my early 20s. And that's actually helped me out immensely in my real estate career, because I mainly worked at one bar, which is just outside Vancouver. And that particular bar has paid me back approximately $650,000 in commissions from working there. So I've managed to create a model from my past, and that actually morphed into from working at the bar into the mortgage brokering industry, which I have to admit I didn't do too well at.
Can you elaborate a little bit about how you were able to generate commission from the bar? Are we talking referrals, or can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, so quick synopsis on it. So when I started mentoring under Danny, and we're kind of jumping a bit ahead here, but in my first year of real estate, he was really adamant, like, make sure you market to your inner circle. So my inner circle was obviously friends and family, but I had a huge connection. It's in the South Surrey Ocean Park area, just outside Vancouver, and I had a huge network of people that I would talk to daily. And I worked at that bar for 7 years straight, and I would just indicate, hey, I'm starting into real estate, and I'd always pair into I'm working with the best. And I wanted to drop the guard of people saying, hey, this guy's brand new into real estate. What can he do? I'd always parachute Danny into the mix. And it worked out. We calculated it's about $650,000 we've generated from that pub. So definitely worthwhile the time that I've invested in there as well.
Yeah. Steve, I think this is overlooked a lot when agents get into real estate. It's like they miss the sphere aspect of it. They miss write down everyone you know, and that is a really good source of business. So one thing you did a little bit different is that you partnered up with an existing high producing agent, or another way to look at it as another team, for example, that's already, we'll say, proven out there, and you use the authority that Danny had to be able to position you as not just Steve, the new guy getting into real estate. It's like Steve is now not only do we like Steve, but because he's working with the best agent in the area, now it's the best of both worlds. Is that right?
Exactly, and that's where I struggled immensely on the mortgage side, because I was young. My whole life, I've known I've wanted to gravitate into something in sales and especially real estate driven. So I got into mortgage brokering because I thought, hey, I'm in my mid 20s and people are going to look at me like I'm young. This is going back 15 years ago, of course. But I thought mortgage brokering would be great because all I'd have to do is talk to them on the phone and they'd never see me in person. So uh, little did I know, obviously there's more interaction than I initially expected, but that's the reason why I got into mortgage brokering, because I thought nobody would take me serious.
Yeah. How old were you when you got into mortgage? Well, how old were you there?
20, 25.
25. Yeah. Now, when you got in, do you think that do you think it was a mindset thing? I mean, do you just look young, or do you think it was like, did it impact you? Uh, because I mean, there's some agents that start really, really young too. How much of an actual impact do you think it made your age?
I think it was huge. And when I go back in time and think of myself 50, I'm almost 40 now. When I think of myself in my mid 20s, like I had a lot of fear of failure. A lot of impostural syndrome where you just don't feel, hey, why would anybody want to work with me? And that's why I glommed on and did exceptionally well right out of the gate in real estate, is because I used my backing. And this is hopefully what we can touch on in the podcast. Maybe there's some agents out there that are starting into real estate and struggling. And I want to give them some advice as to how you can navigate through that, get around it. And then in turn, all of a sudden you become kind of the go-to guy or girl for the area.
Yeah, so we're going to touch on that for 100% because it is very unique in that you were able to overcome the lack of self-confidence, which is very easy, to fall into. Uh, it's one thing, even I've seen it where agents, they come into the business and they have a lot of confidence, but then they get hit, once or twice. They got a couple of deals fell apart and they realize, hey, this isn't what I thought. And then they start going down a spiral and it's hard to get out of that as well. I'm going to actually save that conversation for a little bit. I'm going to come back to it. So make sure that you stay on and listen to this because this is going to be a little bit of a different we'll say conversation than we've had in the past. Steve's insight here is going to be very valuable. But I want to talk a little bit about the lead generation when you got into the business with Danny. How did you had your initial sphere, so you wrote down, do you take us a little bit through your steps that you did to have such a strong start? So you used Danny as, we'll say, an authority to be able to position yourself, but then how did you get business when you first came in?
So it was an interesting time in the market. So when I first started in real estate, it was 2015, and we all know what happened in the Canadian real estate market. Start of 2016, everything was starting to go like crazy. So what I started to do was every time that Danny had a sale, I would market to all the neighboring properties. I would door knock, I'd drop off flyers, and I'd indicate how much that home sold for. And at the time, everyone was just blown away. How did that house sell for that much money? And it would parlay into, start working with us. I always used to use the term us, and I'd indicate, Danny's had over 40 years experience. And, I was obviously full of piss and vinegar at the time, just wanting to pound the pavement, make sure I got my name out there. But I would start to hold open houses for Danny. I would market. We do our open houses a lot differently. We put our signs out probably 5 kilometers away from the house, and we've spent $50,000 on signage to make sure that everybody in the neighborhood knows that we've got an open house. And I also would door knock all the neighbors before, invite them to the open house, and we'd actually have our open houses on a Saturday 1 to 3. I would have a neighbor's invitation only from 12:30 to 1 to try to get the neighbors to come through first and feel comfortable and meet and chat with us.
Okay, so there's a couple of things I want to unpack there. So you said full of piss and vinegar, so the enthusiasm side of it. This is very underestimated. I think that one of the reasons why you have we'll say, the new agents that come on and they get a couple quick sales is because there is so much enthusiasm. I think enthusiasm is very easy to start to decline over time, and how important it is, especially at the beginning, to get the airplane off the ground. So that was it's hard too, right? When somebody's excited and you're thinking about selling and they're convenient, that's very hard to say no to, like, this young guy that's coming up, that's enthusiastic, that wants to work with them. And you have authority coming, with Danny, and you just sold a house as well. So that would be a pretty strong proposition for somebody to say, no, I just, I'm going to use, Sally or Joe type thing.
Yeah, and if anyone would ask me a question that, especially brand new, if I didn't know something, I'd always say, "Give me a second, I'll get right back to you." So I'd always follow. I'd quickly run back to Danny, ask the question, and then I'd come back and give them the answer, and they'd think, "Wow, this guy is pretty sharp. Like he knows what he's doing." And I see it a lot with new agents now. Like my favorite quote is by Mike Tyson: "Everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the face." And for me, I had been punched in the face in the mortgage side, and I kind of want to touch on a few of the mistakes I did there. But once I partnered up with a top producer, and I can't be more strongly opinionated about this, make sure that if you're a newer agent, make sure you partner up with somebody that's actually doing business, because I see so often where an agent gets partnered up with a team, and it could be a team of 10 or 15 people, and none of them are doing any business. And it's the worst people to learn from. So make sure Danny had a huge track record in the area. I had seen his name for decades, and I said, I want to work with that guy. I'll do anything I can to work with him. And he never had worked with anybody prior. He was always just a solo agent. So this was a big endeavor for him and me, of course.
Okay. Again, we're going to come back to how you guys got paired up, how you ended up working with him, and your approach there. Now, the 50,000 signage that you spent, how many signs approximately would you put out prior to an open house?
So our signs are, and we still do this till this day. Like we've got, a team that kind of helps us a bit with our open houses, but we're just the two main guys that are. We still host our open houses, but our signs are 3 feet tall by about 2.5 feet wide, and they fill up the back of a truck. And we've got our truck marketed for the area. Like if you come to Fort Langley, which is just north of Langley Center, which is about an hour outside of Vancouver, you'll see our names everywhere. It's Danny Evans and Steve Hill, Danny Evans and Steve Hill. And 90% of the work that we do is all within a 5-kilometer radius of where we live. So we live and work in Fort Langley. And if you check the most recent stats on MLS, we've been involved in over 40% of every transaction in Fort Langley for the last 5 years. So we're really, really passionate about that.
That's great. I love how you've picked a niche and you've farmed that and have done really well. That's incredible. So going back, I'm just going to approximately how many open house signs would you put out before an open house? Just approximately.
So we've got the big ones, which is about 30. Then we've got 20 of the smaller ones. And then there's also 2 big flags outside of the property that we put up as well. So we want everybody who's driving in the area to see our names. They're always, I know Danny touched on this on his podcast, but our names are always the biggest piece of our scene.
So about 50 signs.
Yeah.
So this is so this is 10x thinking, right? Because a lot of agents will do maybe 3, 4, or 5. We're talking 10x.
Well, and their signs are about this big, sitting out, and you can't even read their names or anything like that. So we want to make sure that if anybody is driving by, they don't have to see the open house aspect of it. They just need to see our names,
their faces, yeah, and the names. Okay, so how long would that take you? Because I know that's coming into a lot of the agents' minds. It's like, I'm going from appointment to appointment. 50 signs is like, how long does that even take you? What would you respond to them?
So, and we get this question a lot, like, how do you guys do this? And it's every weekend, pretty much. The odd weekend we might take off, but we it generates so much business for us that we know that we have to keep doing it. Um, Typically, and what we'll do is we'll only hold the open house instead of doing a Saturday and a Sunday. We strictly hold it on the Saturday because, in our opinion, an open house is only effective if the house is busy. So if a prospective buyer or the agent walks into the house and there's nobody there, it's actually working against the seller at that point. We want our open houses to look like Grand Central Station. We want at least 15 or 20 people in at a time. And we tell our sellers, invite your friends, families, neighbors, everybody. We want it as big of a spectacle as we can because it creates that draw for that house. And they say, hey, that house is active. That's got to be a desirable home. So in terms of timing, we're at least an hour to an hour and a half putting up the signs, and then it's a little quicker grabbing them. But we're budgeting easy 2 to 3 hours each Saturday just putting up our signs.
Okay. So, and you do one open house a weekend, one big one.
One big one. And it's funny, the amount of people that honk at us or wave at us because we're so involved in the community. It's like active marketing. They know that we're working. They can see us boots on the ground. We're putting up the signs. It's like the easiest marketing we could do.
Yeah, it's so good. I know it's like you see somebody hustling. It's like, man, that Steve guy, like, man, he's really giving her. These guys are like hustlers. I see them out every weekend. It's like, let's call them, because it's easy, I think, for the public to think, real estate agents, they just walk in and walk out with these big commission checks. But when you actually see somebody hustling, I think it speaks to we'll say perhaps even the entrepreneur when they first started that hustle, right? And I think that there's a healthy respect that comes from that.
Oh, for sure. And we get a lot of rain here on the west coast of Canada, so they see us out in all conditions: rain, snow,
Yeah,
hail.
it's interesting. I remember when I was door knocking when I first started, and I was door knocking in snow blizzards. And I remember I still had calls years after. They're like, "You came in a snow blizzard, knocked on my door." I'm like, as much as the snow blizzard was, it sucked when I was doing it. A number of times the business that came from that was totally worth it.
In fairness, that's the type of guy that I would want, or lady
Yeah.
that I'd want to hire. Someone
Yeah.
who's in the elements. So
Yeah, that's really good. And so are you still door knocking? How many doors would you knock around the open house to invite them?
usually about 10 to 20 of the neighbors. Like we do have to keep it somewhat in the zone, but we also flyer out to the same 10,000 homes every 2 weeks. They get our flyer in the mail, and we do obviously just listed flyers to just listed, just sold, which is pretty standard. But we always make sure that, and the biggest takeaway is our consistency. We might miss the odd weekend, but 50 out of the 52 weekends we're advertising every Saturday in our zone.
Got it. So just to confirm, so for every home you take on, you send a just listed, just sold to the 10,000 homes. Is that
Yeah,
right?
in
And
our zone. Yeah,
yeah, and you're doing every 2 weeks, you're doing an invite to an open house flyer as well. So they're getting multiple touches through the mail.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. And the consistency, like every other week versus like monthly, I would imagine. Have you measured that, or like the returns on doing it every other week, so every 2 weeks versus doing it monthly? What's your take on that?
Yeah, well, they do. Obviously, direct mail gets really expensive, so we are trying. It's really hard to, and I'm sure you're aware of this. In this business, it's really hard to gauge. Okay, what kind of return are you getting from one specific
Yeah,
item?
exactly. Yeah.
For us, it's a multitude of different factors. One, they see our names consistently in the area. The signs go up. Obviously, the sold stickers, the just listed, just sold flyers. We've got bus shelters in the area, like the big, I don't know if you have them back east, but they're the big kind of 6x9 bus shelters with our advertisement on it. There's a local grocery store in Fort Langley. We have the checkout counter, so when everyone's walking through to pay for their groceries, they see our names on the divider. We're just starting to ramp up our target social media marketing. So we've done social media for years, of course, but this is specifically targeting the community of Fort Langley. There's 10,000 doors in the area, and like I said, we're the number one agents. We've been involved in 40% of all the transactions for the last 5 years.
Yeah. It's incredible. And one of the things that I really love about what we're talking about, Steve, is very simple and straightforward. It's just you've been extremely consistent.
Yeah.
It's just like, I just do it every weekend. It's like, this isn't, agents have heard this concept before. I think the 50 signs, though, I love how hardcore that is. It's not like 5 signs. We're talking like 10x, which totally makes sense. If it's out every weekend, people see it on a consistent basis, and it's about getting flashes of imagery, right? It's like you want to be number one or number two top of mind. And if you get that kind of consistency through the time within that, 5 kilometer radius that you were talking about, that consistency is what would get you top of mind. And then that would just generate more business for you. But it's in the consistency approach, I think is one of your keys there.
Exactly. And we're willing to take the gamble. So we had to buy a truck to carry the signs. You got to invest the 50,000 in the signs. So a lot of agents just don't want to step off the ledge and go, okay, am I really going to make my money back on this? And they might try something similar for a month or two and go, oh, this isn't working, and then they give up.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really good. I think the having a process, or okay, here's my approach, I'm going to stick with it, and then I'm just going to execute day after day. It's interesting that whatever you do, just make sure you do it consistent, because it's like everything works. It's just what's your approach, and then making sure you're doubling down on it, I think is key.
Yeah.
So
And there
yeah,
was
go.
like a bunch of mistakes that from the mortgage side, like coming in from a very similar industry to real estate. Like some of the mistakes that I made on the mortgage side is I never partnered up with anybody. I tried to kind of navigate it on my own. The people that were in the brokerage to give me advice really weren't there to truly give me good advice. They felt more of a competitor than anything. I I started to, and this was a big mistake at the beginning. I started to try to buy the business when I was on the mortgage side. So I'd go to realtors and I'd say, "Hey, if you refer me a client, I'll give you 50% of the commissions back on the mortgage side." For me, now looking back, wearing the hat from the real estate side, the biggest concern for a realtor working with a mortgage broker is making sure that they have the knowledge and the skills to get the financing for their clients. Trying to buy the business was a terrible plan because it devalues my own abilities. So it's basically portraying to them, hey, I don't really know what I'm doing, but I'm willing to throw cash your way if you start bringing me some business.
Yeah, let's keep going down the lessons learned. Now we're going to circle back to this. So you were in the mortgage business. One of the mistakes was trying to buy the business, as in like you were positioning yourself lower on the totem pole from an authority figure on
Yeah.
that. What other lessons did you learn from going from mortgage and then spinning over to real estate? Were there any other lessons you pulled from that initiative?
Yeah, real estate was the first time I dove 100% or 110% in. I was completely invested in it. Whereas the mortgage side, I again battled with the fear of failure. I was still working part-time jobs, other places to try to make ends meet. And at a certain point, you have to be able to step off the ledge and go, okay, it's either sink or swim. And on the mortgage side, I never gave it the 110% like I should have.
Mm, that's really good. Yeah. Especially at the beginning to get the airplane off the ground. It's interesting when I started 6 months in, I was thinking about getting a part-time job because we maxed out on our credit cards and it was like, just the business wasn't there. And we ended up pushing through and, the rest is history. But I think going all in and burning the ships is key
Yeah.
when you're going. So that's really good advice. Now, can you maybe share a little bit? One of your approaches was going after and partnering with somebody that already has authority within the community that you want to work in. And you had mentioned some good advice as well. With some teams, they might have like 15 agents, but none of them are doing any business, and that's not an ideal spot to be able to learn from, right? So what advice would you have for the agents to, one, either, select a partner that's already doing business out there for them to be receptive to it, and or maybe a successful team that's actually doing business? What advice to be able to go after and find the right placement? What advice would you have for them?
The biggest piece of advice that I would give is try to work a deal with somebody at the beginning that's so good. You know the person you want to work with. Everyone knows whatever brokerage they're moving into or area that they're wanting to work in. They know really who the top 1, 2, or 3 agents are for that area. And if there's ones that it might be a team or it might be an individual agent. For me, I focused on an individual agent, and I made a proposal that he couldn't say no to. So I said, "Look, I'm gonna work for you. I'm a new agent. I want to learn from you. I'll follow your model. I just want to learn from you. All I'm asking is 5%. So whatever you bring in, I want 5% of the business, or 5% of the commissions." And he goes, "Well, that seems pretty good. So you're willing to do, all the running around, put the lock boxes on, help with the signs. Like, I just wanted to get my foot in the door." But then I said, "Well, there's a caveat to this. Let's start at 5%. If your business starts to grow, there's going to be a scale. And the goal is whenever you start to work with somebody, you want to get to that 50-50 partnership. So if you're targeting the established, number 1, number 2 agent in the area, your goal is to get as close to a 50-50 partnership with that person as possible. And however long that's going to take, maybe you can do it in 5 years, maybe you can do it in 3. But get your foot in the door, make a proposal to them, say, "Hey, I'm willing to work with you," or however you want to word it, but make it so good that they can't say no to it. And you're going to learn more from that agent in 2 months than you will 5 years on your own.
Oh, this is so smart. Alex Hormozy talks about that a lot about, when you first start any sort of business, do it for free and then slowly ramp it up as you start to learn and you get better. Why I like this? Because it's so refreshing. Like, Steve, it's interesting. It reminds me, I was sitting with one agent. He was working out in the business. He was making 100,000 gross. And at the time we were talking, our average agent was doing 200,000 net. And he was like, we were going back and forth, and it came to the comp structure, and he's like, "Okay, so what's your split?" I'm like, "Well, our average agent does this." He's like, yeah, but what's your split?" I'm like, "Okay, does it really matter what the split is if you're making, average agent's making 200,000 net?" And it was interesting. He can never get his head wrap around this idea that, okay, the team's looking after all the, the expenses, and, you're able to do more with less time because, we have 50 staff doing all the back end stuff for them. But this idea, when you're going into, say, either team or partnership with this mindset of giving, I'm going to come and add value first. This is going to be, I understand you're going to pour into me, but this is where you're going to take 95% of it. And then if I can prove myself to be able to bring more value, then, and only then in the upside am I taking it, which is, to me, it just makes a lot of sense. It's like, of course, but this is so rare. It's always like, what's in it for me? What's in it for me? It's like, whoa. Like, if you come for that, and I would imagine that with that approach, you probably as a byproduct of coming in with delivering value and that openness and wanting to give, I would imagine that your ramp up period, you would have made way more money than somebody coming in with a closed, what's in it for me mindset.
Well, and I just to touch like my first year in real estate, I won Rookie of the Year for Canada for home life. My GCI was 475,000, and I'd never seen that kind of money in my life, and it was so motivating. And Danny and I talk about my path to success, and each year we continue to grow, which we're really proud of. And one of the golden rules is, and we always talk about this: would you rather have 50% of something or 100% of nothing? And a lot of agents out there are willing to work on their own. They don't want to share anything. They think, hey, I've got this. Well, they're working on the 100% of nothing rule.
That's really good. And you can see it in what the average agent makes, right? And for some agents working part-time, that's what they want and it's perfect for them. And there's nothing wrong with that, other than my only, we'll say, concern with that is if they're not treating the clients with professionalism and treating them really well, then there's a negative, we'll say, spin on the overall industry. And that
For
for
sure.
me is something that I'm hardcore on. Like, I want to elevate the way that people think about real estate agents. This is actually part of one of the reasons for starting this podcast, as well as like leveling up, right? The way, like use car salesman, real estate agent, right? Like, to me, a real estate agent should be up with the lawyers and the accountants, the way that they think about them. But you got to really treat it like I'm a pro, and I'm coming into the business with this professional mindset. And when you do, man, you can make such an impact in clients' lives versus, okay, I'm just going to put in an offer, and kind of, email it off to the other agent, not have a conversation and hope they accept it.
Yeah. Well, and I'm sure you've seen the news story. Last year in Canada, 70% of licensed agents in Canada, did not sell one home in the entire year. So that's pretty alarming. And hopefully podcasts like yours, like I think this is great. And for me, like I always try to give back to new agents. Like I try to coach, or we're involved in we do a lot of building as well, like new home construction. So a lot of agents ask, like there's probably 90% of the agents in our brokerage, there's 280 agents in our Royal LePage brokerage. 90% of them don't know anything about how to build a house or how a house works. Meanwhile, they're trying to sell it. And for us, like we pride ourselves on educating our colleagues and our clients as well. Like when they're shopping for a home, we explain to them, hey, you couldn't rebuild this house for this cost. This is a good value proposition, and we show them how it all breaks down in terms of construction costs and land costs and everything of that nature.
Steve, if there's an agent out there listening and they're like, yeah, you know what, you're probably right, I should probably learn a little bit more about new construction, what advice would you have for them? Like, is there a course they should take? Should they go work, for, a builder for a bit? Like, what counsel would you have for them to be able to level up?
So first step is to follow me on Instagram. I've got a 15-part segment. It's basically from excavation to the finished product. It's actually the house I'm in now. And I interviewed the trades. I kind of took everything step by step all through the process of building a new home. And that's been really valuable. Like other agents have come up to me and said, hey, thanks so much for doing that informational session on Instagram. The other one is talk to like builders. Try to take a builder out for lunch or meet them on site and see if you can kind of pick their brain, so to speak. Like, how does this all work? And never be afraid to ask them like a silly question. Because hey, if I went into a doctor's office and started asking them about their career, I wouldn't really know too much about it either. So you always got to kind of go in with the easy questions.
Yeah, that's good. And I think the curiosity side of it it's interesting. some of the best agents I know, they're super curious. And when they started, they're just asking lots and lots of questions, and they continue to ask a lot of questions. And I think, the goal is you're not asking the same questions over and over. Like, you want to stay away from that, but
Yeah.
asking questions and then, taking note of it and then, implementing it is really good. Steve, when you give advice to an agent, how valuable is it that the agent actually truly hears you, listens fully, does what you suggest, and then circles back and tells you what they did? I'm curious, does that happen very often? That whole cycle that I just explained to you, or do you find that in general, the taking action from the advice you give doesn't happen very often?
Well, here's my experience on it. They might listen to 10%, even like say someone listening to this podcast, they might grab one or two golden nuggets, but they forget the rest. And I was mentoring another agent, and they grasped on really well. Like and she's actually done exceptionally well, just on her own. But she's kind of followed our guidance and everything of that nature. But there's still some. Everybody's unique, right? So they're always going to kind of revert back to their own style or nature, or spawns from our upbringings, of course. But as long as they can grab the general concept, it's amazing if they just follow those couple golden nuggets that their careers do change quite quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. I find for me, like it's rare, and it's such a compliment to me when somebody circles back after and they say, "Hey, listen, I read that book. Here's my best takeaway. I did this. Thank you so much. Like, I had really great results." I'm like, "Oh, I was, you, you did it." And I'm like, after they do, I'm like, "Oh, I want to pour into you more because, it's not on lost, ears, so to speak." So,
Yeah.
that's great to hear that agent's taking advice and, they're doing well.
And the other note on that is, it's a big one for me. It's reflection. So we often, and I'm sure you've experienced this, where you're always kind of pushing for the next level or the next goal. And sometimes, and I give this advice to a lot of agents, see where you've started and where you are now, and always look back on that, because we have a short-term memory in terms of what we've done in the past. We're always kind of looking to the future. And for me, like, I remember growing up, if I could only make $100,000 a year, I'd be happy.
Yeah.
And then you hit that number, and then okay, now I want 200, 300. It keeps going and going. But what you can't forget is to look in the rearview mirror and go, wow, I've actually come a long way. And it'll build confidence in the agent, and whether they're just starting out, and it could be something simple like just going through their first transaction and from start to finish and reflecting on, wow, I actually did that. And I love to see agents when they've had their first sale and they're so happy, and they're just ecstatic. Like that gets me fired up and ready to help out some more agents as well.
That's so powerful, Steve, especially for new agents when they start. It's like going back and looking at their previous wins. So you could even go back further before they got into real estate. Like, I bought my first house when I was like 21 years old. That's like a win. That's evidence that you're a winner, right? And it's like, I won a sales award in this other organization. And so it is really good to be able to go back and write that down when maybe your confidence was shaken a little bit. Cause like you had said, like, that is evidence that you are successful. And it's interesting you say that too, because even now, like over Christmas, I've started writing down. I'm like, okay, here are my goals that I still want to accomplish, and I was writing them all down. And then I'm going to write down we'll say the success, like the wins that I've had, the big ones, and I wrote them all down. I'm like, it's like that's that's pretty. I had just had a moment. I'm like, oh, that's pretty good. Not that like a big head or anything, but there was. I forgot about it. And so
Yeah.
no matter how successful you are or whatever, brain, it's like when you continue to go after big things, I think your advice is so it's so helpful no matter where you're at, because it's easy to forget the wins that you had, and knowing, going back on that reinforces and builds confidence to continue to take on bigger challenges.
Oh, for sure. I always use the put yourself in your 25-year-old shoes, and for you, 21 or however, whenever you started, and then put yourself in your shoes today and connect those dots. And it's really powerful. Like if you start to walk through, okay, everyone goes through their highs and lows, but overall, like everyone's pushing that rock further. Just keep pushing, keep pushing. And it's amazing what you can do.
Yeah, that's really smart. That's wise counsel. I love that advice. We had talked a little bit about your one of your superpowers is copying existing models. So this is something Gary Keller talks a lot about, and being able to look at something, to really dissect it, and then to take action on it. Can you talk us through a little bit about your approach to this, and how it's helped you be successful?
Yeah, and this is a good example of the power of getting the right mentor. So if you're just starting out in the business, find that person that's actually doing business, and cut through all the BS. If someone says, "Hey, I'm doing all these transactions, come work for me," make sure you cross reference that before you do anything. So often I'm seeing agents, they almost want these rookie new hires to come work with them because they need them more than the new person needs the mentor. So it's kind of like a backward system. But for me, I've had this unique skill set that I watch and listen to somebody conduct their business. And with Danny as my mentor, for the last 11 years, within the first kind of 3 to 4 months, there was other agents that I was talking to on the phone, and they'd literally ask me, "How long have you been doing business for?" I've never heard someone, talk like this, in terms of, whether it was getting creative on a contract or dealing with a problem. And I'd say, "Oh, I'm within my first 3 or 4 months," and they were blown away. They're going, "How do you know this stuff?" And it's because every day I'd go and listen to Danny. I would listen to him on the phone. We'd go on appointments together. I'd see how he'd dialogue with potential, clients or listings. And whatever he did, I would mirror it. And I would try to, because I knew, okay, this guy knows what he's doing. So here's the path to success. Just copy. And that's one of the biggest advantages that I had right out of the gate.
Mm. So can you maybe go down a little bit further for the agents listening? So watching something and mirroring and copying it. Is there anything else from like a mindset perspective or at the activity level that has helped you do that consistently, like day after day, and not, get bored or, go after, the grass is greener type thing? It's like, oh, I've learned what I need to learn. Now I'm going to go and do my own. It's like you've continued to work together. But
Yeah.
can you take us through any advice that you have for the agents to do this well?
And we've seen this a lot where all of a sudden, say we're mentoring somebody and they get one or two sales under their belt and they go, I've got it. This, I've got the system now. And they go out on their own and they fall flat on their face. And for me, I leveraged a top agent to try to generate as much income and business that I could by quote unquote riding his coattails at the beginning. And we see this like every agent, they go, hey, I'm going to be the top producer, and they come into the business. I'm going to run through walls. And then, like my favorite quote, everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the face. And at least if you're learning from the best in that area, you've always got someone in your corner. And Danny's been a real advocate for me. When I first started, he said, no one's going to beat you up in this business. You come, you're working with me. I've got your back. And even till this day, now we've got each other's back. Like it's pretty powerful stuff.
And that is powerful. I remember when I was playing hockey this one year, I was in Michigan, and I'll tell you, Michigan hockey, like Canadian hockey is pretty tough, but this league, there were 6 teams in this. It was kind of a rogue junior A team, and you played the games that we played, you're allowed to fight twice. And so the previous game, I got into 2 fights, and then the next game, like I knew the other team was going to come after me. I was the captain of the team at this time, and the school score, but I got into 2 fights, and the last one ended more favorable for me. And so we'll just say the next game they were coming. I told the coach, like, listen, they're coming for me. He's like, yeah, I know. And so he told the enforcer, his name was Eddie, and we lined up, and there's their player. He's lined up beside. He's like, we're dropping them, and then they drop the puck, and all of a sudden from the corner of my eye, Eddie comes skating out from behind me, and he drops him, and he goes toe to toe, and it was a crazy bout. So the next face off, I ended up fighting somebody. But the point is I always remember Eddie, and in a industry that it's tough, and having somebody in your corner is, I think, it's the whole, safety side of it. And that's one of the benefits of being in good partnerships, teams, and have, that you have each other's back. And that's where you would have been developed into a place where, yeah, like you had said, now you have each other's back. Right. But I think that safety side of it is not really talked about a lot when you're going in and working, within a team or a partnership. That is, it gives you a lot of confidence in a, otherwise a fairly scary industry when you have, a lot of agents, and, there is ego in the industry as well. And, there's some agents that just like to kind of shove your face in the mud. And, generally those aren't like the agents that stay around very long, because they start getting a bad reputation and their business starts to decline. But that's really
Exactly.
good insight what you shared there.
Yeah.
So Steve, can you share a little bit about your day-to-day now? So you're extremely, so from a consistency standpoint, so we talked about the weekend. So Saturday is a big open house. That's what you're really doing on a day-to-day. Do you have any routines or productivity items that you do consistently that's contributed to your success?
Yeah, so like my day to day is pretty. And again, it's big on routine. So obviously, wake up, go to the gym, get ready. But Danny and I always meet at the office for 9 a.m. So we always do kind of a quick meeting 9 a.m. and then each of us are off to our own appointments for the day, whether it's showings or listing appointments or anything of that nature. We've got one unlicensed assistant that stays in the office. She handles all kind of the emails and organizing of our schedules and everything of that nature. And yeah, big on making sure there's a good work-life balance. Like I'm home at a certain time. I don't love working nights anymore. Like I just find I like to be home at nights, but weekends I know are still pretty loaded with work.
Yeah, that's really, really good. It's interesting how you can start to plan your day and have it so that offers aren't, they're, you can have them expire, not at 11:59 p.m. right? It's like you can have them expire a lot earlier, so you're not having to work those evenings the same way, and schedule your week to be able to still be productive and make deals happen. But that comes with time and experience, I find.
Yeah, we've actually changed. This has been one of the best things we've done in the last couple of years. I don't know if you have these forms back east, but we use on every listing. It's called a direction of presentation of offers, and basically it sets out a guideline, or it's adamant. It's signed by the sellers. Any offer that's delivered on any one of our listings must be left open for a minimum of 48 hours from the time it's delivered to us. So it gives us the time to reach out to the other parties that have shown the property, or it might be a Friday night, we're out for whatever reason, we're not, those terrible situations when you're on the phone with the seller and it's 9 o'clock at night. We've bought ourselves this time, and because buyers agents are notorious for, hey, here's my offer and I'll give you 3 hours to deal with it. And we're the only agents that are using this, and it works so well. Like, hey, leave your offer open for 48 hours. You don't really have a choice. It's part of this direction of presentation of offers, and it's been a game changer for us, like from our personal lives.
So for the cases where the agents say, "Hey, listen, they're only in town, for the day. They're going to put an offer on a property. It's down to yours and another, and we want to do a deal tonight." Or even tomorrow, for example. How do you respond? And have you ever had somebody not fall through with the offer because you said, "Listen, we need 48 hours"?
Yeah, and again, we don't portray that we're going to be holding off. So, but what we do is we want to buy that time regardless. So we don't know what the seller's schedules are. They might be out of town. So we're very direct with the buyer's agent. Look, we're going to try to deal with this as quick as possible, but all of the offers on this property must be left open for 48 hours. And it's completely changed our business model, and it's actually worked to our sellers' benefit because we're able to go back to past showings and say, hey, we've got an offer in hand. It's worked really, really well. Now, if someone writes over list price and no subjects and leaves it open for 48 hours, are we going to drag our feet with that offer? Probably not.
Yeah. Yeah. The reason I asked that because, there's strong agents out there. And I think that's where you got to really read the room, so to speak, is this the best thing for the client to maybe do it a little bit sooner or not? And I think that you got to, I always say the listing agent is really the king or queen of the whole transaction. It's like you control what's happening. And so when you have that strong buyer's agent, that happens as long as you're communicating with the client. And I like that 48-hour rule, so it just buys you that time. It's not like this is special for you. This is what we do with all of our listings. And here's a signed document from the seller when they start to say, well, you need to present right now, or I'm going to report you to the governing body. Right. And so that's good. That's really good. Yeah, when we change our deadlines so that they're not 11:59, like that was a game changer for me because it was like some days I was waiting up as like it's 11:50 is like now I got to wait till 11:59 before I know for sure that the deal is dead, right? So
Oh, it's terrible. Yeah.
yeah, it took me a little bit, but I learned, Steve. I learned. All right, so let's jump right into rapid fire here, Steve. This has been a really great conversation. I want to make sure, did we close the loop? Was there anything else you wanted to add before we get into rapid fire about, your approach with, Danny coming on, selecting him and how you did it? Was there anything else you wanted to add there?
No, I think we've covered a lot of it. And again, if any agent's looking for some advice, or I'm always available. So message me on Instagram. I think you'll post my Instagram handle there. And if anyone's got any questions on anything, reach out anytime.
All right. So I have three quick questions here for you. First on rapid fire is I'm a big reader. I love reading books. Which book for you has made the biggest impact in your career?
It's a classic, Gary Keller, the millionaire real estate agent. Really, obviously, I think every realtor should read it. Pretty straightforward. The other one that it's not necessarily a book. It's more of a motivational speech. You've probably seen it. It's a classic for me. It's Eric Thomas. You can YouTube him. How bad do you really want it? Speech, and it's probably the most motivating speech you'll ever listen to.
Very cool. Thank you for that. All right. Three words that best describe you.
Calm, confident, and hardworking.
Yeah. I'm just going to underline how important calm is when you're negotiating. That would be, as we were having the conversation, I'm like, Steve would be really good negotiating a very tough deal to be able to put the client at ease. And that's actually not talked about a lot, I find, is when everything is bombs are going off, it's a tough negotiation. When the agent is calm and confident and strong, and they just keep, the client, it eases them and they start to make better decisions. So that's actually, I think you got that as a superpower as well. So I'm glad you
Can I
mentioned
just
calm.
touch on one little trick that I do when I'm sitting down with people and going over an
Please.
offer?
Yeah.
And I don't know if this is a common practice, but what I do is, say I'm sitting down at the table, I make sure that I spread out all my stuff on the table to take up as much room as possible so that they know that I'm in control. And You watch their body language as soon as you start. So you move, you put your pen, your paper, you move other things around. You take up as much of their space, and all of a sudden they start to kind of sit back and they go, "We're listening to this guy."
Uh-huh. Interesting. Huh. No, I've never heard that before. That's good. Uh, okay, so we got the 3 words. Final advice. This is my final question here for you. What final advice do you have for the real estate agents listening to help take their business to the next level?
I think it's pretty clear if they've been listening now. Make sure you find a mentor right out of the gate. Learn from them. Don't question if they say something. You're going, like I don't really think that's the right way to do it. Follow their lead. As long as they're biggest caveat, as long as they're a true top producer.
Yeah, very good. Steve, I really appreciate you coming on the show. For the agents that maybe want to reach out to you, maybe they want you to be their mentor, or maybe they're in another province and they want to refer business, whether it's a buyer or seller, to you. Maybe you could share again your area that you work in, and then best way they can connect with you personally.
Yeah, so we're the main area that we work is the Fraser Valley, specifically Langley, and the most pinpointed area is Fort Langley. But we do work the outskirts of the greater Vancouver area as well. My Instagram handle is at Steve Hill Real Estate, and my email is info@sellwithstevehill.com.
Amazing. Steve, thank you so much for coming on the show here and sharing your wisdom. I really appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Mark. Thanks for having me on.
Right on. And thank you, everyone, for listening to the show. If you liked it, you can go ahead and subscribe to the channel and share it with another real estate agent that you think will benefit from it. I love you guys, and keep going full out.